Welcome to another edition of Kentucky Esports Weekly, where you can find your latest esports news and industry news, amongst other things. I'm your host, Nathan Stevens. We are now beyond the 4th of July weekend, which just passed us, setting our sights on the second half of the summer. Maybe we'll get some baseball and basketball to help out a little bit. But in the meantime, we're all waiting impatiently for the Xbox Series X and PS5 release dates and prices, which should be very interesting. Good discussions. I'm pretty sure that one company is waiting for the other and vice versa to release those things so they won't look bad, I guess. They're both going to be expensive. I don't know what their issues are, but that bit of news is probably the most important for this summer because people want to know exactly what they're going to have to shell out. So that will be interesting, and I suspect that will be at the end of the summer. So anyway, we're in the calm before the storm of video game craziness arrives. So we have a lot of business to get to before the craziness gets to us. So let's start it off with quick hitters. First off, Loops Esports took home the glory at PUBG Mobile Pro League Americas this past week, which wrapped up Season 1 for the league, their online-only league, which is new to them. The Loops Esports took home a piece of the $200,000 prize pot with their efforts and will join the likes of XQ Gaming, B4 Esports, clever name, Cloud9, Wildcard Gaming, Team Queso, that must be a very delicious team, Tempo Storm, and Pittsburgh Knights for the upcoming PUBG Mobile West League Season 0, which starts on July 10th and concludes on August 9th. Congrats to Loops Esports, and also good to see that PUBG Mobile is thriving during these times as well. But speaking of tournaments, moving on to software, Guilded, which is a globally renowned chatting platform for gaming communities, has introduced a new all-in-one tournament infrastructure to its gaming software package. The tournament feature will easily organize leagues, allow for quick access tournaments, and is just an information architect's dream. It looks really slick, folks, and super easy for gamers wanting to dig into quick tournament creation, which I know there are quite a few people around here that do. Founder and CEO of Guilded, Eli Brown, had this to say about the announcement. For the first time ever, we're fully integrating esports tournaments with their communities and the tools they use to chat every day, unlocking massive potential for organizers to grow their fan bases. We're building the world's esports infrastructure on Guilded, and unifying chat and tournament software is the first step. I know a lot of Smash Brothers players here in Lexington, and who thrive at the University of Kentucky. And I know they'd love to snag this software. So it's set to launch in September of 2020, and I believe they're going to go into early access sometime soon. File this next one away under, I'm not in the least bit shocked. The streaming analytics expert Stream Hatchet has reported second quarter data for game streaming in 2020. The report states that over 7.6 billion, that's with a B, hours of game stream watching occurred in the second quarter of 2020, which is a new record. Also reported that Twitch is still the dominant and preferred platform for viewing, with YouTube coming in second, the ill-fated and much deleted Mixer following both those, and Facebook is pulling up the rear but making quick progress in fourth. They've got Facebook is interesting. It had like a 370% jump, but it's still very, very tiny right now. Facebook is either going to regress in the third quarter or really pick up the pace after acquiring Mixer this past month, although I know there were a lot of Mixer fans that were enormously unhappy with Mixer's methods of selling their company off to Facebook. It is probably much akin to when the Browns left for Baltimore. It was an overnight thing and nobody saw it coming. The report also brings to light that Valorant overtook Fortnite in viewing hours in the second quarter by totaling 560 million viewing hours. That's a lot of hours. But fear not, Fortnite fans. That game wasn't far behind. It clocked in at 545 million viewing hours. say I love stats. When I saw this report, I was like, ooh, this can be nice to talk about. So it looks like streaming and gaming are becoming a big deal during this pandemic. So anyway, that's it for quick hitters. So let's shift over to the industry news with our dynamic duo, Hailey and Tyler.
Hello, I'm Tyler Ralston.
And I'm Hailey Salyers.
And this is the week's industry news. Starting off, it is best to discuss the Evolution Championship Series this year and the recent controversy. Like most events, EVO 2020 was set to be an online occasion. However, allegations were recently brought up concerning organizer Joey QR, known by the alias Mr. Wizard, and his repeated sexual abuse of minors through the mid to late 90s. A specific anecdote is given on Twitter by user Pyron Ikari, who goes by Mikey, where Joey is described as frequently paying young boys around $20 to $40 worth in tokens to take off articles of clothing or jump into hazard pools. When these allegations came to light, other stories involving sexual misconduct eventually followed, including a number of professional gamers within the fighting game community. In response, others have begun to share their story as the members of the community rally behind the victims and push for action from both the administration behind EVO as well as the companies invested in the event. Capcom, NetherRealm Studios, and Bandai Namco were among the first companies to back out and release statements that expressed their lack of support for the actions of Mr. Wizard. Alongside other major companies distancing themselves from the event, many members of the community, including competitors and commentators, voiced their own disapproval and refused to be involved in EVO this year if the issue was not addressed. As a result of these growing tensions, EVO released its own statement in regards to wishing to see progress for a safer culture as they put Joey on leave before eventually outright relieving him of all responsibilities to EVO. In the aftermath, EVO has been canceled entirely this year, but they have stated they plan to return in 2021. Other members of the show will have more to discuss on this topic later on, so please stay tuned.
In other news, Microsoft has officially confirmed the rumored Xbox first-party game showcase. The event will happen on Thursday, July 23rd at 9 a.m. Pacific Time. As the event will focus on Xbox Series X games, one title that's sure to be heavily featured is Halo Infinite. This type of presentation would typically be something Microsoft would offer at a larger conference. However, the company is trying something new in response to E3's cancellation this year. With more details likely to be revealed on July 23rd, the Xbox Series X and Halo Infinite will launch in the upcoming holiday season.
Ubisoft Forward is Ubisoft's take on the current trend of online showcase events during this strange year, in replacement of the typical gatherings of E3. The stage is set for Ubisoft to have their teams across the globe reveal games, details, and updates for eager fans that tune into their live stream. As of now, the games that are publicly known to have a scheduled appearance are Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, Hyperscape, and Trackmania. Ubisoft has also stated that all who are watching at a certain point in the show will be given specific instructions on how to receive Watch Dogs 2 for free on Uplay. The Ubisoft Forward live stream will start with a pre-show for North America at 11:30 a.m. PDT, with the main show starting at 12 on June 12th, and it is viewable on ubisoft.com/forward, Twitch, and YouTube. Continuing with Ubisoft news, briefly mentioned in the last piece, Ubisoft has a new game titled Hyperscape, which is currently in a closed beta process with a plethora of online personalities and streamers playing the game on popular platforms. Hyperscape is another entry into the Battle Royale genre, following much of the expected formula with loot scattered across an expansive map for players to grab and fight to the last person standing, the battlegrounds growing ever smaller with the passage of time, and objects like jump pads increasing pace and assisting movement. However, like any game that hopes to stand out from among a sea of competitors, this Battle Royale has a few interesting twists. The first is a lack of weapon tiers and character-specific abilities. Weapons gathered off the ground are upgradable by combining one with another, while abilities are found as normal loot and two can be equipped at the same time. Another interesting alteration is their take on the respawn system, where players now become an echo on death. Instead of becoming simple spectators, players are able to move freely in the world and call out valuable information to their team while being invisible. If their teammates are successful in eliminating another player, an item can be taken to revive their fallen comrade. Additionally, when the edges of the map begin to shrink rather than a toxic cloud or a wall of death encroaching players, instead the map becomes transparent and blank as the digital world begins to fade. Eventually, players can run through surfaces as they disappear before the collapsing edge begins to damage them, allowing for quick runs to the center, but opponents are also able to see and possibly eliminate these players making their way in, so it's best to move quickly. Finally, there is a change in the win conditions. Whereas most battle royales are a fight to the last man or group standing, instead this time, when the remaining player count gets low, a crown descends into the world for a player to pick up. If it is held by one player for 45 seconds, they achieve victory. Ubisoft's Hyperscape certainly appears to be an honest attempt at evolving this genre, and likely only a few examples known at the moment. All that remains to be seen is if they can pull a player base away from the likes of Apex Legends, Call of Duty Warzone, Fortnite, and others.
And speaking of Call of Duty, Activision's upcoming Call of Duty League Championship will be entirely virtual, as will the rest of the postseason schedule. This move continues the decision to host the regular season online. Activision has said in a news release that the decision was made with the safety of all players, staff, and partners as the top priority. To accommodate the virtual tournament, each competitor will be given a universal camera setup. At a certain time before each match, players must all be seated and have their cameras turned on. These cameras will allow league officials to oversee gameplay and check for issues or concerns with equipment setup. Teams will also be given the option to veto up to 5 servers. Activision is also planning to strengthen its production and technical teams to help address problems in the virtual environment. The company also plans to help its officiating team prepare for the unexpected. More details for the Call of Duty League Championship are expected soon. And finally, a teaser trailer is now available for Shadow Warrior 3. The teaser trailer does not offer any gameplay from the third entry in the rebooted Shadow Warrior games, but it does appear to confirm the return of developer Flying Wild Hog and a continuation of the series' humorous style. As for the plot, Lone Wayne will be attempting to capture a loose dragon while facing some enemies. New to the game is the use of a grappling hook. Shadow Warrior 3 is scheduled for release next year, but the platforms have not yet been confirmed. The gameplay reveal is expected on July 11th at 12 p.m. Pacific Time as part of the Devolver Direct presentation. And that's all for the industry news this week. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Hailey and Tyler. Elias, Conwell, and his production peeps have returned with some more video game history lessons for you. Can't get enough of those, honestly. This week, Elias brings a 5-minute history lesson on Naughty Dog, a developer that is currently making waves on the Twitterverse with their Last of Us 2 release. I know there was a lot of controversy prior to it, including story details revealed by a disgruntled employee, supposedly, which did and did not pan out to be true. Anyway, enjoy the history. Enjoy everything about Naughty Dog.
Well, history can't be wrong, you know.
Welcome, nerds, to another History in 5 Minutes, where we tell you all about the good stuff you may not have known about your favorite video games and their developers. With the recent release of The Last of Us 2, we thought it'd be a great idea to talk about Naughty Dog themselves. It all starts off with high school students Jason, Ruben, and Andy Gavin having experimented with Lisp and C++, teamed up to create video games and founded Jam Software, which stood for Jason and Andy's Magic Software, in 1984. Ruben and Gavin chose to create a software for the Apple II and decided to create a skiing game for their second title. During production of the game, Gavin accidentally copied bootleg games over the only copy of the skiing game they had. Ruben then created a new skiing game called Ski Crate, originally titled Ski Stud, within the weekend. Because the game played slower, Gavin reprogrammed the game to play quicker. The game was later picked up and published by Vaudeville, which bought the game from Jam Software for $250. Ruben and Gavin created an Apple II GS graphic game called Dream Zone, which was released in 1988 and imported to the Atari ST, Amiga, and personal computer. In 1989, Ruben and Gavin released a game titled Keef the Thief, which was published by Electronic Arts for the Apple II GS, Amiga, and IBM PC compatible. To make a fresh start and dissolve the relationship with Vaudeville, Ruben and Gavin renamed Jam Software as Naughty Dog on September 9, 1989. Naughty Dog also created and developed Rings of Power, which was published by Electronic Arts for the Sega Genesis in 1991. In 1994, Ruben and Gavin produced a 3DO interactive multiplayer titled Way of the Warrior and presented to Mark Kearney of Universal Interactive Studios. Kearney was pleased with the Way of the Warrior and signed Naughty Dog onto Universal Interactive Studios for 3 additional games. Ruben and Gavin devised a plan to create a 3-dimensional action platform game. Because the player would be forced to constantly look at the character's rear, the game was jokingly codenamed Sonic's Ass Game. Production of the game began in 1994, during which Naughty Dog expanded its number of employees and invented a developmental tool called Game-Oriented Object Lists to create characters and gameplay. Cartoonist Charles Zembilis and Joe Pearson were recruited to create characters of the game, which resulted in the titular character Crash Bandicoot.
What have I got?
After 14 months of development, the game was shown to Sony Computer Entertainment, who then signed on to publish the game. Crash Bandicoot was shown to the public for the first time at E3 and went on to become one of the highest-selling titles for the PlayStation console, selling over 6.8 million copies. Naughty Dog continued to develop 2 more Crash Bandicoot games, with the spin-off Crash Team Racing kart racing game. By then, the studio was looking up to develop games for Sony, not be constrained by Universal Interactive. Since Universal held the rights to Crash Bandicoot series, Naughty Dog could not develop future games in its own right. The studio will be bought out by Sony in 2001 to avoid a repeat while it's focused on the development of the first game of the Jak and Daxter series. The Jak and Daxter games met similar success as the Crash Bandicoot games. During the development of Jak 3 and Jak X combat racing games, Ruben and Gavin slowly transitioned Evan Wells and Steve White to become co-presidents of Naughty Dog by the time the founders left the studio. White was replaced by Christophe Balestre after a year. In 2007, Naughty Dog began working on its Uncharted series and made their first approach to realistic worlds and characters. In contrast to their first games, Crash Bandicoot and Jak's Daxter series, which feature fantastical worlds and fantastical settings. The Uncharted franchise has been praised for its cinematic quality and technical proficiency, and has sold nearly 17 million copies worldwide as of April 2012. During the 2011 Spike TV Video Game Awards, Naughty Dog unveiled its new intellectual property, The Last of Us. Described as a post-apocalyptic third-person action-adventure game, following the plight of a teenage girl named Ellie and her adult protector, Joel, in a post-apocalyptic United States overrun with humans infected with a disease remnants of an infection caused by Cordyceps unilaterus. The Last of Us received universal acclaim upon release. In 2012 and 2013, Naughty Dog teamed up with Mass Media Incorporated to release the Jak and Daxter collection. It contains high-definition ports of the original PlayStation 2 trilogy and was released for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation Vita respectively. On November 23, 2013, Corinne Yu, principal engine architect and Microsoft's Halo 4 developer 343 Industries, announced that she had joined Naughty Dog on December 7, 2013, during the first edition of Spike's VXG Award Show. Naughty Dog won the Studio of the Year award for their work on The Last of Us. On March 4, 2014, Uncharted lead writer Amy Hennig left the studio, with Uncharted 3 director Justin Richmond and The Last of Us lead artist Nate Wells leaving soon after. Later, it was revealed that The Last of Us would be released on PlayStation 4 as a remastered version. In March 2017, Balestre announced that he would retire of his role as co-president on April 3, 2017, after working at the company for 15 years. Evan Well remains in his role as president. In September 2017, game director Bruce Starley announced the departure from Naughty Dog, stating that he found energy focused in other directions following the sabbatical. Creative director Neil Druckmann was promoted to vice president in March 2018. In October 2017, former environment artist David Ballard claimed that he suffered a mental breakdown after experiencing sexual harassment by a senior team member while working at Naughty Dog in late 2015, stating that he informed PlayStation's HR department and the following day was terminated from his position and offered $20,000 to remain silent regarding his allegation, which he declined. Naughty Dog responded to the allegations with a statement declaring that it had not found any evidence of having received allegations from Mr. Ballard that he was harassed in any way. Since then, they have released The Last of Us 2. Don't worry, there's no spoilers here. I just love Ellie. Also, Crash Bandicoot 4 just got announced, and even though it isn't made by Naughty Dog, you can still see the legacy that's set in place. Well, gals and gamers, that's all from me. And try not to get any viruses out there, okay?
There was a nice trip through time with Naughty Dog. It's always good to see where they came from. I know they have a nice Crash Bandicoot history, so they're an interesting company, really interesting company, and I'm glad they're still around. They make some really good stuff. Anyway, shifting gears, Nick and his panel of personalities are back, and they have some good material to discuss. Time for a little bit of push to talk.
Greetings, gamers and people and anyone who watches this show. So there's obviously always a lot of cool stuff happening in the gaming world and in the community surrounding it, but this show, we believe it's much more important for us to touch on some more serious things, some very serious things that are happening in the, I don't know how to say it, the online gaming community, the internet streaming space, Twitch.
Fighting game community.
Yeah, specifically the fighting game community, fighting game circuit, Smash community. It's a lot. It's a ton. And so viewer discretion advised. We're not going to get into the weeds with too many details, but it's heavy stuff, and it's going to be talking about some pretty serious allegations involving like sexual harassment, in many forms and other stuff. So just be aware before going forward with watching this that we're going to be discussing stuff like that. And with that, I guess we can get into it. This is to bring awareness to all this stuff. So to start, not long ago, what people have been saying it is that, or labeling it as, is the Me Too movement has kind of finally made its way into Twitch, and that was like the start of it, right? Mm-hmm. People are starting to come out with a lot of allegations against big streamers, big competitive gamers, big influential people in that industry, in that space. And there's a lot happening. Some notable ones that people have been talking about the most are, say, for example, Fedmeister has been removed from the offline TV house and from the group for numerous instances of misconduct against women, sexual misconduct against women. That's just to start there, and that's. I highly encourage anyone who's willing to look up all of this, because, like I said, we don't want to get too into the weeds with it. It's very heavy. There's a lot to cover. And another thing we want to talk about specifically was how it has started in a big way to the Smash community, the competitive Smash community, and the fighting game circuit. I'm sure anyone watching this is probably keeps up with gaming news, competitive games in some way, shape, or form, and knows EVO Online has been canceled. And that is in large part due to everything going on with the Smash community and the FGC, but then also the CEO, Joey QR, better known as Mr. Wiz, especially to me for a long time, had some really serious allegations come out against him, and he has been removed as CEO of EVO. And so EVO Online's it's canceled. It's not going to happen. And in the Smash community, it's pretty serious. I mean, it's too much to even that's a community that is near and dear to my heart. You know, I played competitive Smash for years. And even if I don't compete anymore, I watch tournaments every weekend. I'm very involved. It's devastating to hear all these things that have come out. Many top players have lost their sponsorships, have had allegations against them, and these are proven true. Like I said, we don't want to loud anything around here that's as fact that's not been proven as such. These are people who have admitted their wrongdoings, made statements, etc. And it's crazy. So Nairo, Zero, D1, Kitaro, wildly influential, huge names in Smash, and it's horrible things they've been accused of. Sexual harassment, worse than sexual harassment, being involved with minors when, they themselves are mid-20s. It's just a lot of disgusting stuff, but and this is I want this to be a discussion between. I'm glad I have my panel here with me. It's not my panel, it's our panel. I'm glad we're all here to talk about this, because I absolutely don't want to talk about this alone. It's a lot to discuss, how everyone feels about all of this.
Well, really quick,
I think. Sorry,
before not to interrupt you, I also want to say this stuff is also terrible, but also terrible is that Rackful, killed himself, and it's just so also terrible.
Yeah,
it's really no good news this week, it feels like.
It's just been such a hard couple of weeks, few weeks even, for the online gaming community. Yeah, you're right. Reckful is an OG. Reckful's been around forever streaming. He was one of the most popular World of Warcraft or Warcraft streamers just out there. Blizzard even made a statement on their Twitter about losing him.
Just sad.
And that's something that we're going to discuss too, to bring some awareness towards mental health issues in America, within individuals, the mental health care system, a lot of stuff. So sorry, that was a really long intro, but there's just so much to cover, and I don't want to miss anything, because it all deserves to be spoken about and brought to light. Now, I don't know about you all, but a lot of people say, and I want your all's opinions, that the competitive Smash scene is dead, that this is it for Smash, it's going down. It's horrible what's happening to the Smash community right now in the fighting game circuit, etc. But I personally think that it's hard to look at and listen to and see all of this, because it's been just an overload of information. But I think it's a good thing.
I think as far as competitive gaming, with any game, like Smash included, is I think as long as there's gamers out there that are willing to compete, then there will always be a community for it. It may not be the exact same, or it may be like rebranded, but I don't think I don't think it will die. It may get like reborn as something else. But as long as there's like good people out there that are still willing to compete and still value the game that they compete in, there will be people that rally behind it, I believe.
Yeah. And like I said, I think this is going to be a good thing overall for the community, because people are like, oh my goodness, this is horrible. All these people we looked up to are just like monsters. And while they're not wrong, these people are being outed. These people are being removed from the community. So it's a tough time right now. But in the end, the community will be better off for it. It's removing bad people from the community. I think one of the most important things right now is it's empowering a lot of victims to finally stand up and speak out. Yeah, it's incredibly important.
That's the way it is.
Because, they feel like they have others to stand with. They don't feel as afraid to come out and talk about it, which is awesome.
So I kind of understand the doom and gloom outlook that a lot of Smash boys probably have, or just Smash people, sorry. I use boys kind of interchangeably, but because it's crazy that Zero especially, like who I don't even watch Smash that much, but he's just undoubtedly, I think, the most influential Smash player right now. The fact that like it's even at the literal top of the Smash competitive community is just crazy. It would be so hard for me if I was more in Smash to look at the game right now and be objective about its longevity, because it's just how do you trust people now? They got who knows how long Nairo and like all these people have gotten away with this stuff. How else could you feel besides just betrayed and shocked and just
exactly? And now everyone's it's got everyone on alert. Everyone feels safe, and that's just something where, like, as a community, there needs to be change. A huge part that has been brought to light is that there's just no parental supervision at these tournaments. There are 14 and 15-year-olds hanging out with adults at these tournaments, and there are after parties, there are hotels, there are people will house other competitors for tournaments that people have traveled out of state to, and it's just a mix of like minors and adults. There's drinking at these parties. It's just not a good situation. And whether you want to put that on the parents for allowing that to happen, it's still not okay. It doesn't excuse anything. The community needs to be better. It's capable of better. Like I said, we don't want to get into too many details about all this stuff. All this information is readily available online. You could even just like go on the Smash Brothers subreddit, and there are summaries posted of everything going on. The live stream, the Twitch subreddit. I don't want to. Actually, I would just Google that. I don't want to promote live stream fails. That subreddit is just not always the best.
Do we want to talk about the Mewtwo King stuff really quick, just in passing?
Yeah, that's okay. Yes, thank you, Jude.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned this a bit to you guys, Morgan and Elias, last night while we were talking in our group chat. And this is a horrible thing. This actually makes me very angry. With a storm of allegations and people coming forward with all this stuff, there are those people these sad people who take advantage of opportunities like these in situations like these to hurt others with things like false allegations. And that's a whole other mess to get into, because first of all, false allegations are horrible, because that's a stain on that person's life forever. Even when they're proven innocent, people don't forget that. It devalues the allegations of real victims. It makes it harder for them, to come forward and be trusted.
Yeah.
And it's awful. But one that's happened is there's a Smash player, competitive Smasher, Mewtwo King. Honestly, one of the
best players
longest standing and most important Smashers. Like he's been competing. He's competed in Melee, Brawl, Smash 4, Ultimate. He creates content on YouTube, Twitch. He's writing a book right now. Incredible guy. He had false allegations made against him. Well, he had allegations made against him, which he then had to come out with a statement revealing just some things about himself that he never wanted to talk about. Ever. Like, incredibly embarrassing. It's something that's a very large source of his depression for most of his life over this. And he had to talk about it on stream. And I don't want to talk about it. It's graphic. No images, but like the content that he talks about it's graphic. But you can look that up. Just Mewtwo King, allegation response, anything. It's on YouTube, the VODs on Twitch. But it's horrible that he was forced to come out and say that just to prove his innocence. And others have corroborated his innocence as well. But yeah, that kind of stuff happens here, so it's a tough time. Yeah. Just overall, with everything going on, it's just such a hard time from all aspects of it. Any thoughts, opinions?
Yeah. I did want to say a thing. I think this year, like 2020, has just been really horrible.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's almost been like almost like a phoenix, where it's like burning things down and like rebirthing things.
Yeah, change is not always easy.
It's basically putting everyone's back against the wall, and then once everyone's back is against the wall, we're seeing their true colors. Mm-hmm. And the truth is coming out in every aspect of life. Because I used to think like, oh, this is like affecting politics, or it's affecting, Black Lives Matter, Me Too. And I always, like look at the news and see all this stuff happening. And then video games was like my way to like escape that, right? Or
right.
You would go, but now it's seeping into that too. And so now you're seeing everyone's like truth, and people are getting called out for it, which I do like to see. And because even with like game companies too, like it's going to that, it's going into like the anime industry as well. And I think what's horrible is the people that are using their power to take advantage is horrible. But it's also really sad to because I was listening to a podcast, and one of the girls was saying what's really sad is that like at the time, a lot of the girls think they need to do this stuff to get far in the industry.
Yeah.
Like the people of power convince them that this is what they need to do, and they accept it as the way of the land, or like this is like the only way I can
that it's just a fact. That's just what they have to do.
Yeah, and so and I'm glad that now it's showing that it's not what they were lying. They're being lied to, and they
manipulated.
Manipulated. And so, like I said, it's horrible, but I feel like this year is just like it's trimming the fat, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No. Yeah. You're nail on the head. It's like change is not always easy, and this is a super hard time. But we, as a society, like at large, like in America, the world, Twitch, online, whatever scope you want to look at it, is just like there's opportunity for really great change in all of this. But like what you said with the other stuff, I think another thing to bring awareness to that you reminded me of is like something horrible that's happening is that when people come out and are brave, like victims come out, they're very brave. They tell their story. They're getting harassed, not like, and having to like, live through more harassment for being brave enough to speak out because the followers of these gamers, these streamers, these influential people, are defending them like just so hard. Whether they're in denial or they don't care, it's just disgusting behavior. So
I think part of it is, like these streamers and people are like, or like the people that are fans of them. It's like they're like their heroes, and so people are always going to defend their heroes.
Yeah.
Till the end sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And like they're going to be in denial, and they're not, and they're going to see it as that person trying to take down their hero, essentially.
Yeah. Ludwig Ogren, competitive Smash personality, streamer, etc., said it best recently. Full credit to him for this. But these streamers, these gamers, these personalities, these people are not your friends. You don't actually know them. What you know is their stream personality, their persona. They put on a happy face. They act friendly in tournaments, on stream, etc. But you do not actually know them. They are not your friend. You have no clue what they're like behind the scenes. And that's something that people need to be aware of. And when you come out and defend these people who have been ousted from their communities for good reasons, that's just putting so much extra hurt on the victim, and it makes it scarier for other victims to come forward and be honest. So that's another thing I think is good to bring awareness to. But I also just want victims to know, those are very, very vocal minorities most of the times, most every time. But there are innumerable amounts of people standing with you and stuff like that.
It really sucks that the vocal minority is literally screaming at the top of their lungs most of the time.
Exactly. It's a really tough time right now. But this little panel, our panel today, was to bring awareness to all of this happening. Don't be afraid to speak out, or at least talk to someone about it.
Yeah.
And if you want help with speaking out. Sorry.
And like I was saying, for and like just for 2020, I feel like 2020 is like a weird magic curse year. I don't know what you call it. I feel like this, if there's something you're holding back, this is the year to bring it out.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there's a high chance that people will listen. Because I don't know what's going to happen like after this year or what happened before, but this year there's the highest chance people will listen to what you're saying.
That's a cool way of thinking about it. I didn't know where you were going initially with that, but I really like that thought, because it seems arbitrary, right? Like 2020 is just a year. Like problems will carry over into 2021 if they're still there. But no, that's a really, really awesome point, that like people are just on high alert right now.
Exactly.
There's a lot of change happening. People are being super active in trying to force change and help in a lot of ways, and it's really cool. And you're right. I think now's a very safe, good time to come forward. I mean, any time is a good time too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, you're right, Elias. People are actively pushing for change in a really cool way right now.
Yeah.
Anything else we wanna touch on?
I just want to say real quick that just kind of adding on to what you guys were saying, like 2020 is a good year to bring stuff up, but also 2020 kind of sucks because I feel like half the reason it's a good time to bring things up is because everyone's mental state is just probably way worse than it's been in a long time. Like everything just seems like it's burning.
Yeah, it's really.
It's nice because I feel like everyone's supporting each other because of it, but it's just sad because I know there's people, especially if they don't feel like they have a good like social support network, or they just feel like they're alone, or they don't know who they can talk to about bad things. Like, there's resources out there, there's people you can talk to, but it's just, especially I just hate the thought of suicide. Just to bring back the Reckful stuff, it's just so sad to me, and I feel like
it's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking because a lot of times they just don't. People will blame themselves because they'll feel like they didn't do anything, but really I feel like a lot of times there's just nothing anyone can do. Like a lot of them I feel like choose not to tell people, and it just sucks that if you feel that way and you are like really sad, really depressed, even if you're not feeling suicidal, it really helps to talk about it, I think. And just,
that's one thing.
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying, like the thing that people use as like an escape. Yeah, and it doesn't have to be just like video games. It can be like any activity that people use as an escape. They're like finding out that they've been supporting an activity that like the higher ups are doing shady stuff, and that's probably making them feel more insecure about who they are.
Yes. Or some sort of guilt, maybe even that they're like, what's the word, supporting, at least implicitly, like these negative actions that people have done. I can't even imagine what it would be like if I was more of a Zero or a Nairo fan or whatever right now. Like,
it's like Elias mentioned earlier, Smash was my escape. It still is. I literally always have a Smash stream on in the background. I watch tournaments. I felt, like a close, like, I don't know how to say it, like connection to these people, to these like D1 was one of my favorite commentators. Like he seemed like such a cool, down to earth, super nice guy. And now the truth has come out, and that's just not the case. And I feel ignorant. I feel betrayed. It's just never something I thought I would hear, or it's not something I thought would ever happen. But the fact of the matter is, it's true. There's no denying it. It needs to be out there. It's just
hurts to hear it.
It's rough. Yeah. Sorry this stream, we're very sorry this panel's gone on long, but this is something that needed to be brought to light and brought awareness, and like had awareness brought to it.
Yeah. And like another thing I would say, like I almost thought like a send off is whoever's watching is a way we could change is just call out your own friends, your own like close friend group, and community.
Hold people accountable.
If you start seeing them start doing these things or like have habits of these things, like call them out now before something major happens. Because you don't want to because once it happens, it's like now you're in an awkward spot, and you've been friends with this person who did this horrible thing for all these years. You're going to be in a tough spot. So, call them out now if you start seeing hints that they're like getting into this stuff.
Right. Yeah. If you see someone or know someone or have the opportunity to stop someone from doing something horrible, something bad, to curb their behavior, just because you're not participating, doesn't mean you're in the clear.
Yeah.
Like if you can stop someone, you absolutely should. It's not enough to just be silent.
Yeah. Because like what you're saying, that like there's like a circle of people that were in on it, were like covering.
Yeah, a lot of top smashers were in on this together, helping keep people quiet about this, and it's horrible. You know, it's scary to think that kind of stuff is happening or is happening. Just
either way, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot. I highly encourage people to be aware of this. If you're in this space, in this community, gaming, streaming, anything, it's just good to be aware of, to keep yourself informed. The information is readily available online. There are a lot of resources. Also, be aware to, I don't know how to phrase it. I don't know. Stand with victims. Make sure that like there's a safe, you're doing all you can to make a safe space for these people to come forward, to have a safety net. Mental health awareness, that's another huge one. That needs to be reminded of. The mental health, in my opinion, like awareness, and it's gotten better, but like the mental health care system is just
inadequate.
It's tough. It's inadequate for a lot of people. It's expensive. It's not seen as like a necessity, or a lot of people dismiss mental health issues.
There's also a bad stigma that being
it has a horrible stigma around it, but don't be afraid to reach out. Even if you can't afford like medication or counseling, therapy, anything, talk to someone. Friends, family, let others be aware and help you. And obviously that is immensely easier said than done.
Right.
But if
another thing,
try it, we can end the stigma together, is my opinion. Because we have to be brave enough to break it down, or else it will never be broken down.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say was like, try not to blame video games for this. I know it's easy to pin it on video games because, back in the day, people used to pin violence on games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think games are still really wonderful and still great. And I don't think the game should be blamed for what individuals are doing. So don't be afraid to still enjoy a hobby that you love. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think, you're right. I think that we're going to come out of this on the other side, a better community, a better place for everyone. Because like I said, it's tough, but it's good that this is happening. It needed to happen. And it is happening. So we can at least be thankful for that and just do what we can to help others in tough situations.
Right.
But yeah, anything else?
I just want to give a final thought, as of course all of you summed it up pretty well. The online community, just social media, internet, just in general, is just a scary place to, as you said before, people with power, and they could either be, even if they're falsely accused or even just taking advantage of that. It's just a scary thing, because even one slip up and it's just, they're done, or they're just, it's just a whirlwind of just events happening one after the other. But yeah, if, just like, and as you said, mental health issues is a very serious thing. And of course there'll be there's other ways to help cope. Of course, therapy is expensive, of course, because that's, I had a kind of a problem with that because I couldn't afford a therapist, but at least I had tried to have just someone to talk to, is basically, because that honestly helps a lot. But yeah, so you can, if anyone out there is struggling, you can reach out to me even, or I can, if you ever want to chat with me about anything, I'll lend an ear. So you're not alone. I struggled with it.
That's awesome.
A lot of people do. So
thank you, Morgan.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I appreciate you sharing that. So yeah, that's been
okay.
If there's nothing else, that's sorry. It's been long. It's been heavy.
No,
Yeah,
sorry, dude.
we needed
to talk
yeah,
about.
this needed to be talked about. I think everyone
Of
needs to be
course.
talking about this and be made aware of it. So
Be willing
yeah.
to talk about it. I understand that it's hard to admit that people that you think you know are who you think that they are.
Yeah.
But we have to, moving forward as a society, we have to be willing to hold people accountable, even if you love them to death. You never could think they would do anything like this. You have to at least be willing to believe it's a possibility.
Yep.
Right.
You don't know these
people won't feel safe.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So with that, thanks for listening to us. Hopefully some of this, any of this reached you viewing this, listening to this. Hope this gets through to you. Just be aware, help when you can.
Yep.
Seek help if you need it. Yeah, I hope, this just, we'll have fun panels down the road. But this needed to happen. So don't worry. It's all good. But all right, that is it for now. We are gonna pass off to the next person. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
And then
Stay
thank
safe.
you, amazing panelists. Peace out.
That was a heck of a segment, and it's definitely some important issues. And I know that when people get involved with certain situations, especially, I know how the gaming culture can be. Sometimes it's difficult to figure out where you can go to, and I know UK's got some solutions. So, Alex, you want to tell us about some of the solutions?
Yeah, definitely. That was a great discussion. And Morgan offered to provide support to people, and that's very generous of her. I did want to let people know about some various support resources we do have at UK, and the best part about these, they are confidential and free of charge. So I just wanted to go down the list here. The UK VIP Center, so that's the Violence Intervention and Prevention Center. They offer free and confidential support resources for a variety of needs, primarily related to interpersonal violence. The Counseling Center offers a variety of services, things like group meetings, individual one-on-one consultations, and counseling appointments. They typically do not offer long-term care, but if you are looking for a counselor to talk to, they're a great service to contact. They also have group meetings. They provide some ongoing support as well. Those are both on UK's campus, and the information about how to contact them is there. There are also some international numbers and websites. The crisis text line is a way to reach out to somebody via text message. You don't have to talk or look at anybody. You can do that completely via text message. And some more information about what that process is like is at the website on your screen. That's at crisistextline.org. Of course, there's also the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. This is a phone number you can call if you are having suicidal thoughts. All of these resources are free and confidential. One of the hardest things to do is make that first step and reach out to somebody, and it can be hard if it's somebody you know, or you feel like you don't feel confident in telling that to somebody you might know or you might see. All of these are free and confidential. There's no risk of that person that you're talking to on the other end, whether it is an in-person counseling session or the one of these telephone numbers. All of that's confidential, so you can contact them with confidence. You may also find yourself in a situation you don't know if you need to talk to somebody, or if the person on the other at these resources are the correct person to talk to. Reach out to them. They'll let you know. They'll be able to put you in the correct location if it's not the right one. They are there to support you and reach out to them if you're having any of these issues.
That's
and
really
And so much of these discussions, they go back to community, and we're still at the early stages of building Kentucky esports, but we are paying attention to these social issues, and especially the ones that are impacting gaming and gaming communities. We're involving stakeholders and support services from around campus to address topics like these at the foundational level. It's very important that we've seen these as potential issues as we've been gamers and have seen a variety of things happen in gaming communities, and we definitely want to be proactive in that space. We also urge our communities to be proactive in these spaces as well. If you see something that doesn't look right to you, or somebody is doing something that's not right, we hear stories about issues that people either don't want to address or are hesitant to address. They could be harassment, bullying, suicide, or other topics. Reach out to people. You can reach out to people at the, especially the Violence Intervention and Prevention Center. They will point you in the correct location. The Counseling Center will as well. Of course, if you are ever in immediate danger, you can call 911. If you don't have an immediate danger or have one or more of these specific issues, feel free to reach out to one of those numbers, and they'll give you some support.
That's great. You always want to build a community that welcomes everybody and that treats everybody nicely, and especially in gaming, everybody's there for the same reason to game, and nobody should be made to feel unwelcomed or bad. And I think definitely the way things are set up on UK's campus and what we're thinking about going into creating esports certainly is paving the way to make sure that everybody is on the same page and feeling like they can be there without any kind of harassment or anything. So it's really nice.
Definitely. And we've seen firsthand as gamers that there's so much positive things that come out of these communities and friendships. And I know I played World of Warcraft for many years, and I've built friendships that have lasted that entire time and have existed outside of the game as well. I've got a friend in California, another in New Jersey, two in New Jersey, and I actually connected my two friends in New Jersey who didn't know each other through the game, but who I did know through the game, and now they're acquaintances as well. So there's lots of good that can come out of gaming, and we don't want the negative side or the negative people to take control of those communities. We want to take the initiative and make those positive experiences. Yeah. And part of building positive experiences, we want to pivot and talk about one of the communities that we are growing as part of UK Esports, and that's Cat Smash Clash. We want to take a look at the results from last week. Now, this is our weekly tournament. The last week we had UFCO come in first place, and you can see how the remainder of the competitors rounded out the top 8 there. And last week, the tournament, we thought it was opened. The first week was freshmen only. After that, we opened it up to the UK Discord and Esports Club. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, freshmen nearly ran the table. We only had one competitor, not an incoming freshman, that made this top 8. So that's very impressive. To join in on the action, you'll want to go to BB Involved. That's BBN Involved. If you Google that, you'll be able to log into the BB Involved website, where you can see events happening around campus. Search the calendar for Cats Smash Clash and click the link to sign up. And again, that is every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. We want to remind everybody there are prizes for the audience, so watch on Twitch. There's also prizes for the competitors, and you got to unseat some of those incoming freshmen. So get out there, sign up, show us what you've got, and we can't give all of these gift cards away to the same people. So give them some competition.
I love the names of those. Oofgo is awesome. My kids just introduced me to Oof, and I think I was picking it up through the last semester, and I was like, oh, I get that now. Getting older, you start. I always made fun of my parents. Like they'll never, I'll never be like them where I don't understand something. But now I'm there. Like I'm in my 40s, and when my kids say something, and I'm like, I don't know that word, and then I have to ask them what it means. But Oofgo is awesome.
So. I have, I've also, I've now realized this over, I've just recently hit my 40s as well, and I've just given up. I'm just like, I don't understand this thing. I don't know if I'm gonna try to understand this thing. But
did you ever imagine you would get to that point in your life where like all these new things crop up, and you're like, I don't get it?
The biggest thing was music. When I was a kid, I was like, I love music. I'll continue to listen to popular music. And now I'm just like, I don't know, who is that? And then my wife, who is much more youthful than I am, will tell me, you don't know who this is? I'm like, I've never listened to that song. Is it new? It came out 2 years ago. Oh, okay.
It's good.
So that's my experience with popular culture today. What I do know is classic trivia.
There we go. There's a good transition. All right. So we got 5 questions because we did unpopular opinions last week. Was cut off unexpectedly. So we've got full 5 questions for each of us. So let's do this. I think it was first last week, so I believe you
sure.
First.
I'll lead us off. Question 1 is, what is the 64 Double D?
See, it is a failed Nintendo idea, first of all, and it looked like a giant zip drive, and it only came out in Japan. Everybody was rumored that it was it being an add-on to the Nintendo 64 was gonna come over here with Metroid in it, but it never showed its face, and it's still freaking expensive on eBay if you ever want to get one of them. But they are ugly as sin. It's like looking at it. What was the zip drive company a long time ago? Oh gosh, what were they called?
Yeah,
do you remember?
iOmega. Is it iOmega?
iOmega. That's it. Oh yeah, they were just rolling.
Yeah. So when I started in college, it was kind of in this transition phase. There weren't like large flash drives out yet. External hard drives weren't really a thing. So all of my college projects from my first 2 years in college were on zip disk, and I don't have a reader anywhere. So if I ever want to pull up those old projects, I'm just gonna have to find a zip disk reader somewhere.
So do you have a SCSI connection on one of your computers you can hook yours up to?
It only worked in. Oh yeah, today I don't. I would need some kind of adapter. I think they made a parallel. Did they make a parallel version of that too?
They did.
Yeah, and I think that was magneto optical.
Only you would remember that.
And I was reminded of this because some people claimed that the 64 Double D was magneto optical, but I think in their support documentation they say it's only magnetic storage, which is a slightly different technology, but it did support 64 megabytes of data, which is really interesting because it's the N64. I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. Released December 1st, 1999, but it was actually announced prior to the N64 even being released. It included a internet connection that you could connect to through something called RadNet. That's how you know it was released in the 90s. And only 10 discs were released. Okay, these are pretty awesome. Okay, so Metroid, I don't know if that ever actually made it to the platform, but there were multiple Mario Artist versions. SimCity 64 came out, so that might be the only title you'd recognize. My favorite title, though, I don't know what this game is, but it is Doshin the Giant Tinkling Toddler Liberation Front Assemble. And Liberation Front has an exclamation point after it, and Assemble has an exclamation point after it. I'm going to have to look into what this game is, but it sounds amazing.
That sounds like a Bandai title. Bandai, I have some theory that every time they release a game, they see how many words they can put into it, and that is a long title for a game, man.
With 2 exclamation points, so
it's very exciting.
It's a
They're
winner.
yelling it. So, nice. Yeah, the 64DD, I think they had to announce that, and this is just an assumption. They had to announce it because everybody was so down on them for choosing a cartridge. And, I mean, the world had moved on to CD at that point. So that they were like, oh, no, we're still cool. No. Sorry, daughter has shown up. Hey, no, you have to go upstairs, okay? Okay, I'll come see it. First time in the show that has ever happened, everybody. That is, we're in show 14, and
will you send me her? Does she have her SAG card? I also need. I'll need her title and name for the credits.
She can't speak on camera because she doesn't have her SAG card. All right, I think she went upstairs to find the other adult in the household. So, okay. So here is my first question for you. What was the original system that the game Night Trap was made for?
Oh gosh, I'm gonna say the 3DO.
Oh, it never got released. I'll give you that.
Oh.
And it was planned and demoed in the late 80s.
Gosh, I can't think of any unreleased systems. I give up.
What's funny is that when they made Night Trap remastered it for the PS4 and for the Switch, they've actually got the original footage that was part of it. And if you're not familiar with Night Trap, it is a full motion video game. It's basically a giant movie with choices. Really cool behind the scenes stuff if you ever want to see how the game was made. But it was made on the Hasbro Nemo, which its controller was actually showcased in the remastered version of the game.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was a VHS-based system.
Oh my goodness. I may have heard of this. I need to look up that. I love like obscure systems. That sounds amazing. It also sounds like it had awesome load times.
Well, Hasbro had discovered a way to almost instantaneously cut between scenes on VHS.
Wow. No, that's awesome.
Yeah,
you totally could preload. You could pre-cache all of your game data, and then if you're playing full motion video, you could probably queue up your tape. That's awesome. I need to look into that.
There used to be VHS games back in the day, I think. But yeah, you should look into it. It's an interesting history. So, all right.
So question 2 for me. What was the IQ player? And this is little I, big QUE.
Oh, my Lord.
IQ.
I'm not thinking, that's not a Mattel system, is it?
It is not. And I will give you a hint. It is N64 related.
What kind of hint is that?
If you don't know what it is, you're probably not going to get it.
I don't have no clue.
It is a officially licensed, probably partnered. I believe it was a partnership between Nintendo and a Chinese manufacturer for a Chinese market N64.
No way.
And it's completely self-contained, and the games, it was released in 2003. And the games were obtained via a kiosk, and they came on memory card, or you could transfer them to the device. So it had built-in memory as well. And you could download them online from the IQ service. And it was believed Nintendo partnered with the Chinese company to help prevent piracy. And so that's the IQ player. Oh, the coolest thing is that the entire system is in the controller.
What in the world? I got now. Oh, look at that! Yeah, that's impressive, Alex. Now Nintendo wasn't wrong. I mean, it is known that the black market for for technology over in China. They usually can take people's products, reverse engineer them, and then create their own, which is all part of it. But that's good for them. I'm sure they got a piece of the pie out of it. So.
Oh, it was discontinued in 2016.
2016.
So that kind of goes back to our Sega Master System in Brazil discussion too.
Yeah, for the viewers out there, we were discussing Sega Master System, and Alex had brought up how it was present in Brazil for an abnormal amount of time. Was it 2012 when it finally?
It might still be active. There may actually be like a homebrew community for it. I need to look into that. But yeah, they licensed it to a third party to manufacture the Sega Master System. And through the 2000s, it was still being made.
That's nuts. But that's still cool for Nintendo to do that. That's just preventative on their part. So very nice question. I had no idea. I'm going to have to add that to the history list. Bring that up at some point. All right, you ready for number 2?
I'm ready.
This is a short one. What is Namcot?
Oh gosh, what is that? Nam what?
Namcot. It is. It's Namco with a T at the end.
I have no idea, but I'm gonna say it is a foldable bed for gamers.
If only that would be a great name for it. Oh, they missed that market. Somebody should tell Bandai. It is Namco related, and it is not a bed. It was the console division of Namco from 1984 to 1995. So they labeled everything developed through or published through Namco was given Namcot when it came to a console, which I did not know about until about 2 weeks ago.
Wow, I had never heard that. That's really interesting.
They had sent me the Namco Museum archives that came out in June, and every game had Namcot on it, and I was like, what does that mean? And I had to go online and look it up, and it was like the console division. These are all the console versions of the arcade games they did. And I was like, oh, that's why they look So
it could also be a Namco-based theme park.
Oh, it could be.
Namcot Center.
Yeah, and when you tell your parents what ride you're going to go on, and it's all related back to a video game, it'd be like a gigantic title with like exclamation points at the end. Oh, anyway, that was nice. That was really good. That was anyway.
I'm learning.
We all are.
Question 3. Oh, I'm sure you're gonna get this. Only one generation of Xbox was not x86 based. Now, of course, x86 referring to the instruction set on the CPU. Which one of the Xbox consoles was not x86 based?
Wouldn't that just be the first one?
Would it?
I'm going to answer the first one. The very first one.
Okay. It was actually the 360. The first one was x86 based, and it was kind of Microsoft was coming in, and this idea was like, oh, they're releasing the Xbox. It'll be like computer games in your living room, and you'll have this cross-compatibility. And then the next generation, they decided to go PowerPC. And so PowerPC processor was used in Macintosh computers.
Yeah.
It's more of I believe it's a RISC-based processor. So it performs more efficiently. Potentially was better in that smaller form factor. They partnered with IBM to release the processor. So the thought is also that they may have had a financial incentive to go PowerPC, but this was also in the generation of Pentium 4 processors that were known to run hot, and also they were prone to slowdowns. And if you're playing games, the slowdowns were largely based on something called something called branch prediction, which is basically the CPU trying to guess what the next calculation will be. The Pentium 4 pipeline was so complex that if branch prediction was wrong, it would have to go back and recalculate something, which took way longer, and potentially would add to performance issues with the game. So Xbox 360 was not x86 based, but when they went to the Xbox One, and of course the upcoming generation is both x86 based. So they just had that one line, and that hurts backwards compatibility, and it makes programmers have to learn a new language potentially to write games for your system. So
that's
interesting transition to and away from PowerPC for Microsoft.
That's just, I did not know IBM was so involved with console gaming back in the 2000s. They did the Gecko chip for the GameCube, I believe, if I do remember right. Yeah,
and IBM was and I don't know if they still are, but they were especially they were part of the consortium with, it was IBM, Motorola, and Apple. I think
that would make sense.
And they basically did custom PowerPC, like RISC-based processors. So yeah, IBM for the longest time, and it was interesting to learn as an Apple user that IBM was making Apple products. And you're like, wait, shouldn't making CPUs for Apple products? And you're like, wait, aren't they competitors? And that's interesting.
Point, yeah, I think at that point Apple had. I think we're focusing on capturing the education market to get back to really start getting its momentum going. It had to be that around that time. And probably Microsoft didn't feel like they were going to be threatened by them if they went the PowerPC route. But they chose it. And what's funny is that, the 360 ran hot, and that's like the biggest reason the Red Ring of Death happened. So I don't know.
Another interesting side story to this, when I was kind of researching this question, I went back and found articles from 2003, because that was around the time that they announced this partnership to developers. And I guess the 360 did not come out until, was it 2005 or 6?
It was, I think it was 05.
And people were positing we thought Apple would go to Intel long before Microsoft went to PowerPC. But the kind of irony in that is that Apple went to Intel because the PowerPC chips of the day were not running. They didn't have enough power efficiency to run their laptops at their thermal and power targets. So yeah, maybe that's part of the reason the Xbox 360 ran so hot.
I would say so. That's that was such a. I never understood why people would put up with that, but I knew somebody who went through 5 of those Xbox 360s and still was like, "It's okay." I'm like, "What are you doing?" That was good. That was good. All right. All right. So here's a tricky one, very tricky one. I'll just throw that out now. Who created the first Madden NFL game for Electronic Arts before Electronic Arts took it underneath their wing?
Who created? Was this like a publisher or a developer?
So EA is still the publisher in this scenario, but they went to an outside developer to actually make the first Madden game. And the developer is still around, still incredibly prominent. And it's an odd fit. I'll put it that way.
Gosh. Honestly, when I'm thinking about this, I can only think of publishers at the moment. I have no clue. I don't have anything coming to mind.
Bethesda.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Like let it sink in, then all you're thinking of is Skyrim, Fallout, sometimes Fallout 76. But they were the first ones to create the first Madden NFL game for Electronic Arts.
No, I didn't know that. I think of it was weird seeing Bethesda with I grew up with the Doom franchise and id Software. And it's weird to see Bethesda on the Doom franchise. It's even weirder to see Bethesda on the on the Madden franchise.
No, I remember reading an article on them on that particular topic years ago, and I was like, is that a mistake? Did they put the wrong company in there? It's like, nope. But yeah, they were the first. So good, sir. What you got for me?
All right. Question 4. What was the first CD-based console?
Like fully CD based?
The first, it didn't have to be standalone, but the first console that had a CD drive. We'll put it that way.
Oh, the first console. That had to be the TurboGrafx 16.
You got it. 1988 was the year. That was when the PC Engine released the CD-ROM add-on, with the first games being Fighting Street, Monster Lair, and Eastbook 1 and 2.
Oh, that was a cool series. That is a cool series still. Yeah, I remember seeing the commercials for that when I was younger, and I remember seeing one of the coolest games I have never played. It Came from the Desert, which was a hokey B-movie, giant ant invasion into like some 50s campy scenario game that ran on it, and it was so neat. I had never seen people in a game that looked like people. It's like fully acted out. So
that sounds familiar. Was there like a giant ant on the cover?
Yes. And there was I think there's like a scientist, like a big bearded scientist who was on the cover of it, and it was
I have like I never played this game, but I have memories of like maybe ads for it in video game magazines or something.
Oh gosh, that's yeah. I would EGMs of the day would have definitely carried it. And what was the one that there was a magazine that gave ratings with like icons of people being happy or sad. I can't remember.
Oh, that sounds like EGM.
The child has returned. No, we're live. All right, go on. No, we're live. Go on. Yes, say goodbye. Bye. Usually there's somebody else watching her doing this.
That's how we'll let the internet watch your children.
No, yeah, I'll just that's what the iPad's for. Go play Roblox. Whose turn was it? Was it?
I think it's yours.
Okay.
You got the TurboGrafx 16 CD system as the first.
I'm winning. So I'm actually behind overall, though. So that's. Right.
I don't know about that.
Oh, that the last time we did this. Oh,
I don't remember the last question I got right.
It's okay. You're gonna get one of these right. I know you will. Okay, so there was a knockoff of Oregon Trail that came out in 2010, and it was a complete parody of it. What was it called?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're gonna drop like $3 on this after this because you gotta experience it. It's called Oregon Trail, which was a zombie apocalypse version of Oregon Trail.
I never heard of that one. Can you get? Is it? Oh no! What? It's not scurvy. It's the. What's the malady that you get in Oregon Trail?
Dysentery.
Yeah. Oh, can you get dysentery in it?
I think dysentery is somewhere in it.
Yeah, as long as you can get dysentery, it's totally worth it.
You know, I had one of those shirts that says "You've died of dysentery," like with the Oregon Trail like symbol or like graphics on it, and I would walk into places, and people would just be horrified that I wore that shirt. And I'm like, no, it's a game. This is. I played this as a kid. It's okay. We all learned to try to survive on a trail.
The best part was then I don't condone hunting buffalo, but that was probably the best part of the game was the hunting buffalo, and it just kind of came up randomly because you'd just be like going through the venturing out west, and then all of a sudden it's like finally I get to hunt some buffalo.
That game That is a tough game too. That was like the Dark Souls of Texas Instrument games. That's so difficult.
I've got memories of playing that on a 286 computer. We had Math Blaster and Mavis Beacon teaches typing. Those were
Say what you
our
want.
educational games.
Mavis Beacon was like the bee's knees. It is amazing typing program that nobody probably knows about. So that and Typing of the Dead. That was on the.
I was gonna say. Now kids have Typing of the Dead on their Dreamcast.
Gosh, the best use for that keyboard. Okay, so your turn. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, so we know the PlayStation 2 is the best-selling console of all time. What was the best-selling game on the PlayStation 2?
Holy moly! Jeez. Was it a Sony game? Am I allowed to ask that? Like a Sony published game?
It was not a Sony game. And in fact, I don't know. In the top, I went through the top like 15. I don't think there are many Sony games in the top 15, period.
No, there should be. I know there probably will be after Last of Us Part 2. Jeez Louise. Was it made by Square?
No.
Oh, you got me. I could go through a whole list. I was going to say Final Fantasy VIII because people were like assuming they would follow up with something greater. There
are, in the top like 15, there are multiple Final Fantasy games. But Final Fantasy X is not the first one. It comes in at number 5 with 8 million copies. Number 1 is Grand Theft Auto San Andreas.
I would have never guessed that, but now I understand it. That is... that game is well known. Very, very well known.
And it sold 17.33 million copies. 2 and 3 were both Gran Turismo games. Gran Turismo 3 and 4. Grand Theft Auto Vice City comes in at number 4. And then Final Fantasy 10, GTA 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, Final Fantasy 12. The first, and I kind of started looking on this list, and I'm like, wow, it's okay. One sequel after the next. The first game that was an original title was Kingdom Hearts, and that was, let's see, that was at number 10. So all sequels were top-selling games until number 10. And then it's the next original IP is God of War at number 14 after that. So if you want a hit, just remake something old.
And Rockstar is pretty good at that some days. So that's they could make a killing off of a remastered version of Vice City, or not Vice City. What was it? Was it Vice City?
San Andreas.
San Andreas. Thank you. Oh. I got no comments. I know I've seen somebody play it before, and I was morally appalled with Grand Theft Auto 5. That was very pretty and fun. But that I think San Andreas still. I don't what. So what's special about San Andreas? Was it like the first movement into 3D?
You know my opinion about GTA games, so don't ask me what's special about it.
We're in the same boat, so just so you know. That's Red Dead Redemption, yes. I cannot play a GTA very well. So, but nice question. But I had no idea. That system was around for so long. It is hard to pinpoint one game. So, nice job. All right, you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
All right, what was LucasArts' last unfinished game called?
Oh gosh, is this the one that's is this 17?
Close. It's in the teens.
13?
Oh yeah, you got it.
It's 13?
It is Star Wars 1313.
Oh, okay. I knew it was a number of some sort.
You got it. See, that's so it was based on the underground of is it Corsican? Corsican? I'm just a huge Star Wars fan. I can't pronounce the planets. Wherever the Emperor was.
Yeah.
So the game was. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I used to know way more. I played Star Wars Galaxies way too much, and I used to know all of the planets and moons. I knew like planets, moons for some reason. I've since forgotten. That was 2003, so I've since forgotten all of the all of the very granular trivia of primarily geography and interplanetary stuff in Star Wars. But go on. That's my little nerdy past.
No, that's all right. Somebody had just related. Somebody had asked me about Draft Day with Kevin Costner today, which is, I'm a Browns fan, so it's like the most inspirational movie I could ever hope for. And I could not remember Costner's last name, so I was like, I must have dumped it to replace it with something else. So I get it. But yeah, the game was Star Wars 1313 was based in the underworld of that planet, and it was going to be totally about smugglers and bounty hunters, and that's it. There wasn't going to be, supposedly not going to be Jedis and Sith involved. So they made a great demo at I think the 2013 E3, and then they got shut down, and the project got shut down after Disney acquired them. So just so sad. But we're going to learn about that. We're going to learn about them next week in Elias's history. He's doing a part 1 and part 2 of LucasArts.
Oh wow, 2-part. That'll be the first 2-parter.
It's more. It takes more than 5 minutes for them apparently. So
maybe part 2 will have a sales record.
Oh my gosh, that would be nice. Well, that was fun. We're done, right?
I think that's it. I think that's it. I got, out of the last month, I think I got 1 question. So thank you for that one.
You got 2. I know you've gotten 2. I know for a fact you've gotten 2. So yeah, you're just gonna have to bring back like the hardware from the 90s and 2000s, because I will miss every one of those. So just so you know. But this was fun, and thank you very much, Alex. And
thank you.
Thank everybody. I want to thank everybody for being here today, and hope you enjoyed the show. And again, UK has a lot of support channels, so just keep those in mind as the fall is upon us. So on that note, have a great day, you all, and we'll see you next week.